Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to stand before you today and share a truth that has the power to shift the course of your life, your battles, and your destiny. We live in a world filled with opposition, sometimes visible, sometimes hidden. We face adversaries in our workplaces, in our communities, and even within ourselves. The common instinct is to fight, to retaliate, to strike back. But what if I told you that the greatest victories are won without ever lifting a sword? True power is not found in conflict, but in wisdom. It is not in the ability to destroy your enemy through force, but in the ability to make your enemy irrelevant, to outgrow, outthink, and outlast them. The strongest leaders, the wisest kings, and the most effective warriors understood this principle. You do not defeat your enemy by fighting them. You defeat them by rendering them powerless over your destiny. History has shown us that the greatest revolutions did not come through war, but through transformation. The most powerful leaders did not conquer with weapons, but with wisdom. The most unshakable individuals are not those who attack, but those who rise above. Today, I want to give you a blueprint, a divine strategy that will allow you to dismantle your opposition without engaging in their warfare. If you can grasp this principle, you will never fear another enemy again. You will walk in a confidence that no man can shake, and you will experience victory without ever stepping into battle. Master the power of self-control. The greatest wars in history were often ignited by a single act of reaction. A word spoken in anger, an attack made in haste, a decision born out of emotion rather than strategy. If you want to destroy your enemy without fighting, the first weapon you must master is self-control. The one who controls their emotions controls the battlefield. Your enemy thrives on your reactions. They are waiting for you to become frustrated, to act impulsively, to make a move that reveals your weakness. The moment you engage in their game, you have already lost. But when you refuse to react, when you stand firm in wisdom and refuse to be moved by provocation, you disarm them completely. They cannot fight someone who does not step into the ring. Self-control is the discipline of kings. A ruler who cannot control his temper will lose his kingdom. A leader who cannot govern his emotions will never govern people. A warrior who fights every battle will never win the war. If you want to be unshakable, you must master the art of restraint. True strength is not in the power to strike, but in the power to hold back. When your enemy sees that their words, their attacks, and their strategies have no effect on you, they will become frustrated. They will exhaust themselves trying to fight a war you refuse to participate in. Eventually, they will have no choice but to retreat. The most dangerous person is the one who cannot be provoked. The most powerful individual is the one who remains calm in the midst of the storm. When you control yourself, you control the outcome. And when you control the outcome, you have already won. If you master self-control, you will never be controlled by another. And when you are not controlled by another, no enemy can ever defeat you. Elevate above the battle. Your enemy wants you to stay on their level. They want you to engage in their tactics, to play by their rules, to descend into the arena where they are most comfortable. But true victory is not in fighting at their level. It is in rising above it. Think about an eagle. When a storm comes, other birds panic, flapping their wings, fighting against the wind. But the eagle, it spreads its wings and rises higher. It does not fight the storm. It uses the storm to elevate itself. That is the mindset of a true leader. That is how you destroy your enemy without fighting. The greatest victories are not won through direct confrontation, but through elevation. Your enemy wants you distracted, focused on their attacks, worried about their opinions. But when you elevate yourself, when you focus on your vision, your growth, and your mission, you remove yourself from their reach. A person who rises above does not engage in small battles. They do not argue with those beneath their calling. They do not fight over things that do not contribute to their purpose. They understand that their greatest weapon is not retaliation. The moment you decide to rise higher, your enemies become irrelevant. They can no longer reach you, no longer affect you, no longer determine your future. Instead of wasting energy on them, you invest your energy in becoming greater. And as you grow, they diminish. Elevation is not just about rising above conflict. It is about transforming into someone who is too great to be troubled by small opposition. You do not defeat your enemy by fighting them. You defeat them by becoming too elevated for their attacks to matter. Use wisdom as your weapon. Every great leader in history has understood one thing. Wisdom is greater than strength. Battles are won in the mind before they are won on the field. The strongest warriors are not those who fight with their hands, but those who fight with their minds. Your enemy wants to engage in physical combat, emotional combat, and verbal combat. But wisdom teaches you to fight on a different level, a level where they cannot compete. When you respond with wisdom, you confuse your adversary. When you choose intellect over impulse, you strip them of their power. Wisdom does not react, it strategizes. Wisdom does not retaliate, it outmaneuvers. A wise person never fights on the battlefield of their enemy's choosing. Instead, they dictate the terms of engagement, and often they choose not to engage at all. There is a reason kings seek the counsel of wise men before going to war. Wisdom is the foundation of all victory. It teaches you when to act and when to be still, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to move forward and when to step back. Those who use wisdom as their weapon never lose. If you truly want to destroy your enemy without fighting, you must cultivate a mind so sharp, so disciplined, so focused that no attack can penetrate your peace. The battle is not won with fists, it is won with foresight. It is won by those who understand that wisdom is the most powerful weapon of all. Final reinforcement, walking in unshakable authority. Ladies and gentlemen, when you walk in the principles I have shared with you today, you step into a realm where enemies lose their grip on your life. You are no longer controlled by opposition, nor do you waste energy on battles that do not serve your destiny. The most powerful individuals in history did not waste their time fighting insignificant wars. They understood that their greatest weapon was their ability to govern themselves, elevate their mindset, and outthink their opposition. When you apply these principles, you become a force that cannot be moved, a presence that cannot be ignored, and an influence that cannot be silenced. Your enemy may try to provoke you, but you will not react. They may try to attack you, but you will rise higher. They may try to outmaneuver you, but wisdom will be your shield. This is not just a strategy for winning battles. This is a blueprint for living a life of dominion. You must understand, true victory is not in proving your enemy wrong. It is in proving yourself right. It is not in silencing your critics with words, but in silencing them with undeniable success. It is not in engaging in petty warfare, but in growing to a level where their attacks no longer matter. Every person who has ever made a lasting impact in this world has had enemies, but they did not waste time fighting them. They focused on fulfilling their purpose, and in doing so, their enemies became irrelevant. This is the path of true greatness. This is how you destroy your enemy without fighting. So, I leave you with this. Rise higher. Walk in wisdom. Master yourself and focus on your destiny. When you do this, you will not only win, you will reign. It seems you want the speech to continue even further. Let's take it deeper and provide more powerful insights and applications. Becoming untouchable, the final level of mastery. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a level of power where you become untouchable. Not because your enemies disappear, but because they no longer have access to you. This is the realm of true mastery, where your presence alone commands respect, and your silence speaks louder than any argument. Every person who has ever walked in true dominion understood one thing. You do not fight battles that do not serve your destiny. Small people fight small battles. Great people fight great battles, but the greatest among us do not fight at all. They rise, they transform, and they outgrow the conflict entirely. Consider a seed planted in the ground. If you dig it up every time someone questions its potential, it will never grow. But if you allow it to remain planted, if you nurture it, if you focus on its development, one day it will become a mighty tree. And when that tree stands tall, the same people who once doubted it will have no choice but to acknowledge its strength. This is how you deal with your enemies. You do not waste time proving yourself to them. You do not lower yourself to their level. You grow, you build, you succeed, and in doing so, you destroy their influence without ever engaging in their battle. The power of unshakable identity. If you want to be unmovable in the face of opposition, you must first be unshakable in your identity. A person who knows who they are does not need to fight for validation. A person who understands their purpose does not need to argue for recognition. A person who walks in divine authority does not need to prove their worth. Your enemy's greatest weapon is confusion. If they can make you doubt yourself, they have already won. But if you remain anchored in who you are, if you are unwavering in your assignment, no attack will be able to shake you. Many people lose their battles not because they were defeated, but because they became distracted. They allowed the words of their enemies to plant seeds of doubt. They started fighting battles that did not belong to them. And in doing so, they lost sight of their true mission. But when you know who you are, you do not answer every critic. You do not react to every insult. You do not defend yourself against every false accusation. You understand that your purpose is bigger than their opinion. And because of that, you keep moving forward, destroying opposition through excellence. One of the greatest ways to render your enemy powerless is through excellence. Nothing silences critics faster than undeniable results. You do not have to respond to every attack. You simply have to produce fruit. Look at history. The greatest leaders did not spend their time debating with their enemies. They focused on building, creating, and excelling. And when their success became undeniable, their enemies became irrelevant. Your focus must not be on retaliation, but on results. Do not argue, achieve. Do not fight, flourish. Do not defend, dominate. Because when you do, those who once opposed you will have no choice but to acknowledge your greatness. Excellence removes the need for explanation. When you produce results, your work speaks louder than any defense you could give. And when your results are undeniable, your enemies will either be forced to respect you or be destroyed by their own bitterness. The psychology of power, why your enemy wants you to fight. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go any further, you must understand a critical truth. Your enemy does not want to defeat you. They want to distract you. Most people think that opposition exists to overpower them, but in reality, the greatest weapon your enemy has is not force. It is distraction. Because if they can get you to fight, they have already won. Why? Because the moment you engage in unnecessary battles, you have already stepped off the path of your true purpose. Think about this. When a lion walks through the jungle, does it stop to fight every barking dog? No. The lion understands that its energy is too valuable to waste on small, insignificant battles. It keeps moving forward unbothered because it knows who it is. That is the mindset of true power. Your enemy is hoping you will respond emotionally. They want you to become reactive. They want you to step down to their level, because the moment you do, they no longer need to defeat you. You have defeated yourself. This is why self-mastery is the foundation of all victory. Because the one who cannot be provoked is the one who cannot be defeated. Historical examples, how great leaders defeated their enemies without fighting. If you study history, you will see that the greatest victories were won not through war, but through wisdom. The strongest leaders were not those who fought every battle, but those who knew which battles to ignore. Consider the life of Nelson Mandela. He was imprisoned for 27 years. His enemies expected him to come out, bitter, full of rage, ready to fight. But he understood something greater. The most powerful way to destroy an enemy is to outgrow them. When he was finally released, he did not seek revenge. He sought reconciliation. And because of this, he became more powerful than those who once held him captive. Look at Jesus Christ. He was mocked, beaten, and betrayed, yet he never fought back. He understood that his purpose was greater than his opposition. His enemies thought they had won, but in reality, their attacks only fulfilled his destiny. He conquered not by retaliation, but by fulfilling his assignment. Even in the business world, we see this principle at work. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, was once ridiculed by competitors. People laughed at his vision. But he did not waste his time fighting critics. Instead, he built something so great that his critics became irrelevant. Today, those who mocked him are either out of business or forced to acknowledge his success. But it's the lesson: you do not destroy your enemy by fighting them. You destroy them by becoming too great to be ignored, turning opposition into fuel, using your enemies to elevate yourself. Here is a truth most people do not understand. Your enemies are actually working for you. Yes, you heard me right. Your opposition is not your downfall. It is your fuel. Every great person who has ever achieved something significant had enemies. And without those enemies, they would not have reached their full potential. Think about it. If no one ever doubted you, you would not have the motivation to prove yourself. If no one ever opposed you, you would not develop the resilience you need to succeed. If no one ever challenged you, you would not sharpen your mind or strengthen your spirit. The greatest champions do not rise because of ease. They rise because of resistance. Just like a weightlifter needs resistance to build muscle, you need opposition to build strength. This is why you must change your perspective on your enemies. Do not see them as obstacles. See them as opportunities. Every attack is a chance to grow. Every criticism is a chance to improve. Every betrayal is a chance to learn. Your enemies think they are hurting you, but in reality, they are helping you become unstoppable. Living above conflict, the path of true mastery. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a level of life where you no longer engage in conflict because you have risen above it. This is the path of true mastery. When you reach this level, you no longer respond to every insult. You no longer react to every attack. You no longer fight battles that do not contribute to your destiny. Instead, you operate from a place of wisdom, focus, and divine strategy. This is how the greatest minds operate. They do not lower themselves to arguments, debates, or unnecessary conflicts. They move with purpose. They understand that their time and energy are too valuable to be wasted on enemies who are already beneath them. You must ask yourself, do I want to spend my life fighting battles? Or do I want to spend my life building something that will last forever? Because here is the truth. Fighters win battles, but masters win legacies. Fighters get temporary victories, but masters get eternal impact. Fighters waste their energy, but masters build something so great that even their enemies must acknowledge their greatness. You have a choice today. You can waste time engaging with your enemy, or you can rise so high that they become irrelevant. You can fight battles that do not matter, or you can focus on a destiny that will outlive you. Final call to greatness. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with this. You are too powerful to be distracted. You are too wise to be provoked. You are too destined for greatness to waste time on battles that do not matter. Let your self-control be your weapon. Let your wisdom be your strategy. Let your success be your response. And watch as every enemy who once opposed you fades into irrelevance. Because in the end, the greatest victory is not in fighting your enemy. It is in becoming someone so great that your enemy no longer matters. Rise higher. Walk in power and dominate your destiny.